Testing, 1, 2, 3, check, 1, 2, 3, check, check. Do we have any audio? Oh no. Do we have audio? Sound check, testing, 1, 2. Test, 1, 2, 3. What do we got here? Testing, 1, 2, 3. Ah, Merle's here. All right. And Jill's here. Rod, Jens, Andrew, Rich, Gavin. Welcome, Gavin. Henry, or is it Henri? Blaze, Giles, Bill, Michael. Welcome, Michael. Glad to have you here live today. Dave, Mike, and some other folks that have kind of come and gone. Thank you, Bill. Delay today. We're doing YouTube Live again. And not for any good reason. And delay today was about 13 seconds when I kicked it off. So we'll expect that there will be a little bit of a latency between you and me in the chat room. So let's see. Let's do one thing here. Let's move that over there. Let's see if that works. And right there, almost. Put that where I can see it so that I can keep an idea about the time. And, Henri has been guesting. All right, welcome. Well, welcome to the first team. Perhaps longer latency to Europe. I don't know. Let's see. We're counting down 11:30, and I'm going to put 11:15 in chat when I see it. And then when you guys see it, you can tell me what your delay is. Ready, set, 11:15. 12.8 seconds. Okay, so that's 12.8 seconds is probably more accurate than what we've got. Prefer YouTube for the mobile field. Really? That's good to know, Rod. Thank you. I think it does a better job. Yeah. It's kind of a crapshoot on the chat when you're looking on your phone. I mean, everything's so small to begin with. You guys excuse me if I suck down a bunch of fluids here. Trying to get my fluid take back up. I've been a little under the weather. Giles says under 10 seconds, YouTube all around on his preference. Well, you know, I'm beginning to warm up to it too. Did I send a reminder to Jerry? No. Let's send a reminder to Jerry here real quick. Jerry. Where is Jerry? Jerry. R-E-M-I-N-D-R. Guys. In chat. Said to send you a reminder. Okay. So we got Jerry taken care of. Thank you, Dave. Good idea there. Rich says he just realized you guys are on YouTube Live. Oh, okay. Well, you know, it was path of least resistance today. It's always a good idea to be familiar with more than one CDN. Whether they're paid or unpaid, doesn't really matter. Gavin's using Chromecast with chat on the laptop. Ooh, nice setup. Nice setup. And Giles is using the same thing. Okay. So you get to see me in all my glory. Goodness gracious. Blaze has got 13 seconds. Very good. Martin S. says hi. Welcome, Martin S. I like it. And so that gives us Tom S., Rod, Andrew S., Rich, Martin S. We've got a lot of S's. Henri, Gavin, Jan, Blaze, Merle, Dave, Bill, Michael, Giles, Mike, and Jill. All right, Michael says, I regularly send my streams to ZX, you have to help me on the pronunciation for that. For our provider, always use YouTube for a backup, great as it records automatically. Yeah, it was really funny. Last week we did YouTube Live for the first time. And of course, when you start YouTube Live, it starts recording. And so the live part of the show was over 2 hours long with the pre-show and the post-show. So if you missed last week's post-show or pre-show and you want to go back and get it, you can get it. Now the chat is gone. I erased the chat on the morning of the of the show day. So today's chat is all there is at this point, I think, if I did it right. So, I thought it would be interesting last week to have the whole show, and then we also recorded it here and uploaded it later to YouTube. So if you like to watch the 1080p version of it, you can do that on YouTube. I'm monitoring a couple of things today, which might be interesting. Let's see if I can capture them for you. Let's see if we can do a screen capture of Windows Task Manager. There we go. And this is Windows Task Manager today. Kind of monitoring the network. Even though it says I have a link speed of 100 Mbps, that is that's the router going out to the internet. I've actually got a gigabit internet here in the studio locally, and then obviously you can see I've got a second NIC that I'm not using right now. I had previously done 2 NICs, one to the internet over the 100 Mbps connection, and then one kind of a local area network. But some guys talked me out of it, said, yeah, you're going to have plenty of bandwidth. So we'll, you always need a switch somewhere. So let's see also what the performance is. 38%, using 4 3/4 gigs of memory. And this is on our old 2nd generation i7, the 2600K. I think it's 3.4 gigahertz out of the box. It's doing about 4.1 today. And anything else interesting there? No, not really. Okay. And you can watch the network kind of do its thing. Not sure what that thing is, but all right. So that's interesting. We'll keep up with that. All right. Rich says, with YouTube Live, you can stop the live broadcast, but the live stream will continue to the end. You mean you can stop the recording, I think. And no immediate cutoff when you stop streaming. Oh, really? Okay. What I did find, and if you watched last week's live one, is that the run-up to the pre-show was about, I don't know, 40 minutes of just that screen that you saw a little while ago, the Streaming Idiots Starting Soon screen. So that's, hopefully if you watched, you fast-forwarded through that. Rich says, what are you using for video input to the laptop? That would be the Asus ROG. It is video input NDI. It's just taking the output from the production PC here as the single input there. Let's see if I can show you a screen cap of what that looks like. That might be kind of fun to look at for just a second. NDI, Tom's ROG. Well, let's just play here just for a second. Desktop capture. Okay, can you see that? No, you can't. Sorry about that. Cut the sound for a second. We'll just switch over here. This is what the laptop looks like. Just running vMix, and really it just had only one input. I added a second input so that you can see what it looks like. But that's it. Pretty lightweight. In a minute, I'll turn the recorder on, and you can see that the streaming input or the streamer is on. NDI-in only. That's correct. Yep. So let's go back to live. And if we didn't screw everything up, I think we're in pretty good shape. All right. Giles says, I think you can edit that out in YouTube. Yes, you can. But what happens, unless I'm missing something, is it creates a new video. You can't just chop up the old one and keep it. So if 100 people have already watched the pre-edited one, and then I create a new version, now we have two versions of the same thing. And so I try not to clog up YouTube with a bunch of duplicate stuff like that. And I hate to delete a video that has views on it. I'm a big statistics nut. Rich says, I was curious because you have high CPU for only NDI input. Well, the CPU on the laptop's running about 8%, 9%. And of course, that's the CPU portion that vMix is using. It doesn't include the NDI inputs, outputs. On the PC here, performance is 36%, and I'm not streaming or recording. But keep in mind, every screen capture and every NDI input and every web browser input, those are hungry little beasts. Yeah, the task manager on the production PC. Yep. And, again, second generation with a, I think it's got a NVIDIA 750, GeForce 750 in it. So it's not a particularly overpowered PC. Hello, Chris. Welcome. Oh, I can see by this that it's time to get started. So let's do that. I'm trying to suck down a little bit more fluids here. Martin K is here. Welcome, Martin. Henri says you can trim a YouTube video. It takes hours to process. It doesn't make new video. Old address stays. Oh, well, that's good. Well, I'll have to take another look at that. Oh, and Kent's here. Welcome, Kent. Glad to have you. Sometimes Kent will come have lunch with us, but then he gets called back to his business. And Charles is here. Dr. Charles Campbell is in the house. Welcome, Charles. Good to see you. And Edward is here. Edward Ford is here. Welcome. Right, Merle, I got you with the YouTube editor. Yep. Okay, we'll give that a try. Hello, Kent. Hello, Kent. We need to chat, my friend. Let's see. What do we need to do to get this show on the road? I need to I need to cover up this this desk right here. You can see it off to my left, or actually to your right, my left. And I need to make it disappear. So let's see, do I have an interesting shot where you can watch that disappear? Yeah, here we go. Let's try that one for a second. So, we'll make this disappear. You guys are learning all my secret tricks. How to turn a messy studio into a fairly decent looking place. Okay, how do we do there? Not bad. Let's see if I sit down, does it give any crackles or sparklies? Okay. Let's go here and try this one. Not bad. Not bad at all. All right. Well, is anyone else having buffering? Martin S. No buffering in Austria, no buffering in the UK, no buffering in Edwards Land. Tom the Magician. Well, yeah. If you've got a green cloth, you're a magician. Martin says he's in the UK and it's buffering badly. Martin, I'm really sorry about that. I really am. That's no fun. I think Martin K is in the UK and Giles is in the UK, and I don't know who else might be in the UK, but they can chime in and say whether or not they're having problems too. And Merle, it is magic. If I look a little paler, it's because I am. So I'm recovering here from a little thing yesterday and last night. Martin K says Salford seems okay. Berlin seems okay. Gavin says seems okay. Rod says seems okay. Okay. Well, that's the joy of YouTube, is that you can knock it down to anything you want. If they could trim the 13 seconds down to 7, I would be happier. All right. Let's see if we can't get everything queued up here. And anybody else that popped in that we need to welcome? Looking through the list here. Looks like everybody has been greeted. Now, if somebody comes in now, number one, y'all need to tell them that they have to bring refreshments to the post show. And number two, welcome them. Please make them feel welcome. Even if they're just coming in as a guest, that's okay too. All right, so let's go to the show tab. And Canary Islands are okay. All right. Good. And then we're going to fade to black. And let's get my mic dropped, and I'll be right with you guys. Well, hello and welcome. I'm Tom Sinclair, and you have arrived at another overwhelming or underwhelming episode of Streaming Idiots. So delighted to have you with us today. For all the folks that are watching us live in chat. We're delighted to have you there. We're going to be talking a little bit about NDI today, and about a little follow-up on my rant about Facebook Live, and then talking about some of the stuff coming up. So where shall we start? Oh, I know. If you're watching us on YouTube, thanks for tuning in. Would love to have you become a subscriber to the program so that you can get notices and know when we've posted a show. Today we're actually broadcasting live using YouTube Live. It's about a 13-second latency between the time I say it and the time you hear it, and that seems to be pretty consistent throughout the world. We've had some folks overseas that had 12.8, 13 seconds, and some folks here in the U.S. about the same. Some of the folks overseas are having a little bit of buffering, but where is buffering coming from? Why does it buffer for one person and not another? Mostly it's a local issue, I think. One of the things I like about this is our second time in recent history anyway, streaming on YouTube Live. And it's nice because YouTube, the 13 seconds that it takes is the time it takes YouTube to re-encode all this stuff and make it available in a low definition feed. I think it's 144p is the lowest, all the way up to the max that I'm streaming, which is 720p, and there are 3 or 4 choices in there. So however you're watching, there's a resolution for you. Oh, and I see Jerry's here. Welcome, Jerry. Glad to have you. So we might continue with the YouTube Live experiment a little bit longer. If you go to our YouTube page, Eastern Shore Broadcasting, and you look, you might see 2 videos for today. One is the entire video, which includes the pre-show and the post-show, and then one is the video that we upload later, the 1080p edition, which is just the show itself. So you can pick whichever one you want. And by the way, if you're watching us on YouTube and you want to watch the live pre-show version, you can go to our chat also at easternshorebroadcasting.com, go to the live page, and see the chat. And you can sort of follow along in the chat as we comment back and forth. That can be a little fun. Sometimes I'll do that with Stephen Haywood's The Tech Buzz. Go back and look at the chat and try to imagine who's saying what to whom. It's kind of fun. Let's start out by following up a little bit on last week. Last week we talked a little bit about Facebook Live, and I wasn't too. Was it last week that we did that? I just need to check. Yep, it was last week. Time flies. I was not too hep on Facebook Live, and I realize now, and I appreciate Gavin Gratian taking time to share with me what they were doing with Facebook Live. And it turns out that there is probably a good use for that. And it probably has to do with folks that are not quite so internet savvy, that are not quite so intent on following a particular subject and watching videos about it, or following a particular show and watching the recorded version or the live version of that. And that Facebook just seems to be an easier path of entry for the less sophisticated. Now, I don't mean that as a criticism of folks that don't have as much skill, but rather an identification of those folks to say, okay, my wife will watch Facebook before she'll watch YouTube. And I think, Gavin, you're probably right. He had a preacher, Andrew Womack, who has 200,000 Facebook followers and 10,000 YouTube subscribers. So 200,000 and 10,000. Facebook, 200,000. YouTube, 10,000. He had a higher percentage of YouTube viewers. He had 1% of 10,000, so that was 100. He only had 0.2%, at least in the one little analysis that we did, 0.2% of the 200,000 that were watching live. So that was 400. But in raw numbers, 400 is more than 100. So for the Facebook case, he convinced me that there was. And I think he told me that later, when they got through totaling viewers, that they had over 10,000 viewers at one point. Or maybe it was in one day, during the course of a day. So yes, I'm convinced now that Facebook Live has its place. Is it going to be the only place that I were to ever stream? No, not unless everything else broke. But it is the place that that I might experiment with at some point. So hat tip to Gavin on that one. Well done, and thanks for cluing me in and getting me straight on that one. Let's talk a little bit now about NDI. NDI, as you may recall, stands for Network Device Interface, and it is an amalgamation of protocols and compression techniques that NewTek, the TriCaster folks, have developed in order to send video and audio over a network, a regular old Ethernet cable, you know, twisted pair. Not a twisted pair, but you know, what is it, 4 twisted pairs. And they've done a great job with it, with super low latency, very impressive latency, like in a 30 frame a second, maybe only losing, you know, 2 or 3 or 4 frames. So pretty darn good in that sense. We're actually using NDI here today. The production PC is sending the video and audio of the production to you can see the little laptop off behind me here to my right, a little Asus ROG laptop with a good graphics card in it and an i7 processor, and it's bringing it's taking the NDI feed from this production PC, and then it's sending it out to the internet, to, in this case today, to YouTube, and it's also recording it. And so we've kind of divide and conquer. Now, yes, you know, if you're watching this show for the first time, or for the first time in a long time, you say, "Well, Tom, didn't you used to be the one guy, one PC advocate?" And I really believe in that. If you have just one PC, yes, you can do all of it. You may have to make some compromises, but yes, you can do all of it. But it sure is nice to offload some of that stuff to a second PC. Not using this PC, the PC is just running. I actually use my phone to start the recording, and I'll use my phone to turn it off. We're using vMix 17, the latest, greatest build, which I think is version 17.0.0.85. So if you're still in the version 16s, you definitely need to upgrade. 17 is a keeper. Remember, when you do upgrade, to upgrade your desktop capture, vMix desktop capture utility as well, because it's designed to work with version 17. And if you need to, if you're more than a year out from the last time you bought your system and you need an upgrade key, go to our website, easternshorebroadcasting.com, and for $60 you can buy, I think we may even have it on sale still. At one point we had it on sale for $50, so you could upgrade for, you know, the cost of a nice dinner. And it'll be more long-lasting than that dinner. So, and if you don't know vMix and you're interested in it, you can download a free trial at our website, a free 60-day trial, and we also sell it. I'm an authorized reseller for vMix, and also for VidBlaster and Magwell and PTC Optics. And I've got a sneeze, excuse me. Recovering from a bit of a bout last night and early this morning, so trying to put it all together for you guys. But that's NDI kind of in a quick nutshell. And there is a company called Sienna that is doing some really cool things with NDI, and I suspect, you know, they're working closely with NewTek on this, and they have developed a I guess we would call it sort of a relay system, where they can take an NDI feed and they can route it all over the globe. And they just recently, and I think I posted it on my Facebook and Twitter feed maybe just yesterday. I think it was just yesterday. They had a trial. There's a big trade show going on in Singapore, about electronics and this streaming kind of stuff in Asia. And in Singapore, there is a NewTek TriCaster dealer, reseller, who was taking a NDI input into his TriCaster that originated in London. Get this. Now, I had to look this up because I didn't know this off the top of my head. My geography is a little thin in some places. But London is 6,736 miles. Don't know kilometers, but I have to give you miles, from Singapore. And it took a quarter of a second for that video to get from London to Singapore over common internet. It wasn't any kind of special pipe that they used. It was just a matter of routing, and Ciena using its NDI relay system. The dealer in Singapore took that same input, turned it into an output, and sent it back to London. Another quarter of a second. Another 6,736 miles. So in a half a second, that video traveled to Singapore and back, which is 12,472 miles in a half a second. Well, I'm kind of a stats guy, and I said, how fast is that really? Well, that is 89.8 million miles an hour. You say, wow, that's impossible. That couldn't possibly do that. Well, let's keep in mind the speed of light is 671 million miles an hour. So, we're not even talking anywhere close to the speed of light. This guy would lose in a race with light big time. He'd never make it there. But in terms of frames, a half a second is 15 frames. A quarter of a second is 7.5 frames. So if you're sending video from London to Singapore, 6,000, almost 7,000 miles, it's going to take it, using this new technology from Ciena, that Ciena has developed, of course, in cooperation with New Tech. It will take it 0.25 seconds, 7 frames, to get there. That is impressive. That is impressive. Now, let's put up this is the Ciena, part of the Ciena website. And you can see from this list, and this is Ciena is SIENNA-TV.com. And we are going to scroll down to the NDI Cloud, where you see it says coming soon. Now, most of their products, most of Ciena's products, are for the OS X, which is going to be your Apple devices. But this NDI Cloud is for everybody. And the NDI Cloud, which is also, I think, internally called NDI Relay. And what they say is that basically the NDI Cloud provides a discovery where you can go out and find NDI content and forward it across a wide area network, including the internet. And it also offers multiple transport modes to suit the available bandwidth between sites. So the NDI Cloud, which is considered an intermediate NDI protocol, it compensates for the high latency and the lower bandwidth, and it just works. The amount of bandwidth that's required is massively reduced, and it appears seamless. Now, I'm sure there are going to be times where you're going to have a situation where you just got a bad day on the internet, and for some reason you're not getting your typical speed. But this is going to be a pretty big deal, and I think it's probably going to be a pretty big deal for folks that are doing conferencing, for folks that are in the news business that want to get their news feed halfway across the world, assuming they're not using a satellite. Wow, they're going to be able to get it pretty darn quick. And I think Ciena is going to be working with a lot of news organizations on this. So this is going to be it already is a big deal. And this this may be sort of the holy grail of technology so far as video transport is concerned, to be able to get video around the world in the snap of fingers. Now, I don't know how long it takes to snap fingers. Maybe I got to snap twice, but still, that's pretty darn fast. 89.8 million miles an hour. I've got to remember to turn off my phone sound here. Sorry about that, folks. The other NDI news, which I think is really pretty cool, and it came to us by way of Red Shark News. Are you familiar with Red Shark? RedSharkNews.com, and they seem to keep up pretty well, keep their finger on the pulse of what's going on in the streaming industry, and they found out that Panasonic has rolled out what I think may just be the first NDI compatible camera. And of course, it is a PTZ. In fact, there are two of them. There's the AW-HE130, which I think is, let's see, that's this one. And it retails for over $8,000 US. And then the other one is the AW-HE40, which retails for about $3,500 US. They have, slightly different sensors, slightly different zooms, lots of stats. The black one there is SDI only. The white one is SDI and HDMI. They do power over internet. They do, I think the HE130, the white one, also does infrared. But the big news from my perspective is, it didn't take long for somebody to develop an NDI camera. And so now this camera is going to sit out there, and you're going to plug an Ethernet cable into it, and you're not going to plug it into a capture card on the other side. You are going to plug it into a switch or some other way of getting it onto your network. And this is going to be how we do cameras in the future. This is it right here. It is here. It's going to put the capture card folks out of business in the next 5 to 10 years, maybe less. Don't know. If I were an investor, I would not be investing in capture cards right now unless there was some tremendously unique offering that was going to be a game changer. But in terms of, finding an HDMI card, finding an SDI card, finding a VGA card, a composite card, it's all going to be NDI. I'm making that prediction right now. So if you are considering buying a camera, you might want to wait. Are you going to pay more for an NDI camera? Absolutely. But if you're just getting set up, and we deal with folks all the time that have existing equipment they want to match to. We just put a custom PC, streaming production PC in a community TV station up in Connecticut. And they had a flock of cameras that they needed to connect to. But that PC is going to be capable of doing, well, not capable of, it is capable of doing NDI right now. So the next camera they add can be added over the network and need not necessarily go through a capture card. Here's another scenario. Your system, whether it's a church or a TV station or a school or a sports organization or a radio studio, and you've got your 4-port capture card maxed out with 4 cameras already, but you need that 5th camera. That 5th camera can become an NDI camera. And pow, you're ready to go. Ready to go. Now, from what I understand, my buddies at PTC Optics up in Pennsylvania are working furiously to get their NDI camera ready to go. And if I know those guys, they are going to be rolling that sucker out before the end of the year. maybe even before the end of the third quarter. We'll have to see. We had Paul Richards from PTZ Optics on, I think it was 2 or 3 weeks ago, and in the in the post show, the part that wasn't recorded, he said, "This is not being recorded, is it?" I said, "No, no." He said, "Okay, well, we think we're going to have it out by the end of the year, fourth quarter Q4." So we will see if PTZ Optics is able to make that unofficial deadline that they've put on themselves. The fact that Panasonic has already come out with this one and it is shipping means that there's going to be a little pressure there. Going to be a little pressure. So, 2 big news with NDI today or this week. One is the NDI Cloud, which is available from Sienna TV. And the other is the NDI cameras, and these are PTZ cameras from Panasonic, the AWHE-130 and the AWHE-40. They're available at B&H Photo and Amazon and all the normal places. And I suspect that the NDI Cloud is only available from Sienna, but I could be wrong on that. So that's the news. That's the news. That's all the news that's fit for me to bring you guys today. Coming up in the future, later this month. Is today June 1st? Yeah, so it is later this month. On the 22nd, we're going to have Rudy Ellis with Switchboard in as a guest. Now, the Switchboard name may not resonate with you yet, but Switchboard is the former Joycaster, and that's one of the companies out there that will take your stream and send it to multiple CDNs for you. So I could take my stream today, and instead of just sending it to YouTube, I could send it to Ustream, I could send it to YouNow, I could send it to all sorts of other places, some of which I think Joycaster, that is Switchboard, will do for free, and others like Decast and some of the paid CDNs that I would have to buy a subscription service for. So that's going to be June 22nd. Rudy Ellis with Switchboard. Mark that on your calendar. On June 29th, and this is a tentative date, but Stephen Haywood with the Tech Buzz is going to find his way over to Streaming Idiots. Stephen was gracious enough to have me on his show last year, and I don't know what happened to my brain, but I didn't reciprocate with an invitation then, should have and have now, and so it's going to be really great. Stephen is as many of you know, he's a Wirecast enthusiast, and he's also a NewTek TriCaster enthusiast. So we might be able to squeeze some information out of him on where Wirecast is with NDI, and then also see what he's been able to do with NDI with his TriCaster. It would be really fun to hook up an NDI Cloud connection with him, although we may be stuck using Skype or something like that. NDI Cloud probably costs trillions of dollars, so we'll just have to see if that's at all possible. So Rudy Ellis on the 22nd, Stephen Haywood on the 29th. And if you are interested in being a guest on the show, you've got something in particular that you've done that you think is really neat, and you think that folks would benefit by learning more about what you've done, shoot me an email, tom@easternshorebroadcasting.com, and let's talk. Because I bet there is indeed something that folks would be interested in that you're doing. You just never know. Some of the craziest stuff that people say, this is what we're doing. It's like, oh, wow, that's great. I wish everybody could know. That's it for the show today. If you are watching live, hang around in chat, and we're going to have refreshments there. I'm looking over the list to see who's bringing refreshments today. Hard to say who the last one in was, so we'll find out. But thanks for watching, and we look forward to coming back and bringing you more good info in the future. I'm Tom Sinclair, the #1 streaming idiot. We'll see you next time. Okay, we are done. All right. Broadcast Asia. Yes, Martin, those were the words that I was trying to come up with out of the back of my brain. Pretty darn amazing, don't you think? You know, Michael, I should have looked to see about the pricing, but we'll have to get some info on that. Roughly, what is the CPU overhead of NDI versus something like a Magewell dongle? Good question. Giles says similar. I would say, you know, if you're receiving video, high definition video, 1080p over NDI versus receiving it through your USB port, I don't know. I think they'd be pretty close. That's a good test. Giles says similar. What I'm coming to appreciate is not having a cable. I mean, other than the cable that everything has to be connected to, you got to be hooked up to the local area network, and from there to the internet. But to not have extra cables, if I've got a camera, well, the more I think about what you just said, the more I realize it's a little bit of an apples and oranges kind of comparison, because if you're talking about video's got to have a source, and so you got to get the video source into the network somewhere. You know, so are you saying, okay, you've got an NDI compatible camera versus a Magewell dongle? Well, the camera's going to be way more expensive than the camera that would plug into the Magewell dongle. So I think from an economic standpoint, that's where my decision would be made. It wouldn't be on a latency standpoint or a CPU standpoint. Yeah, Blaze said he was testing it yesterday. Michael says we're still in pre-show. You know, there's always one in the crowd. Let's see, where's the graphic? Oh, look at this. There we go. Now we're officially in post-show. John Kraft is here. Welcome, John. Don't want you to feel singled out, but you're late. You have to bring the refreshments. And there's 20, 24, 25, 26 hungry mouths out there, so you need to get something virtually whipped up right now. Poor John. Martin says there's less data coming in from the than from the dongle, because the dongle is already uncompressed, whereas the NDI source, it needs to be decompressed before it can be used. So there's less data over NDI. So that's where the CPU usage comes in. John says, sure, I'll do that. If it's virtual. What was it somebody did a couple of weeks ago? Took a picture of a bowl of M&Ms and put it in the chat room and said, okay, everybody dive in. It was pretty funny. But you got to get the video into the network somewhere. And whether it's locally through, you know, let's say if it was my laptop over there. And it also, I guess it depends kind of what your setup is. You know, in this setup with the production PC here and then the laptop over there, there's nothing hooked up to the laptop except the internet. All the cameras, and they're, you know, what do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 cameras connected. I'm not sure if they're all being used. Let's see. We've got that one. We've got that one. We've got that one. So I guess there are just 4 cameras today. But those 4 cameras, two of them are webcams, and they are little, you know, they're thirsty little beasts when it comes to CPU cycles. The PTC Optics cam is coming in over the network. So you probably, when I set it up, I forgot to set it up for low latency. So there's a little bit of delay in that one. And it seems to be pretty lightweight. The camera that I'm on right here is coming into an Intensity Pro card. This is the Canon Vixia HF R100. So it's not particularly thirsty. But if I were to plug Magewell dongle into the laptop as a resource for the production PC, now I've got to send NDI from the laptop to the PC to be included with what we're going. So we've added a little bit of extra overhead to the laptop and a little bit of extra overhead to the PC. I think it's just all in the organizational of it, all in the organization. How can we make a good test? Yeah, it's pretty subjective because your CPU is always wavering a little bit. And Giles is right. It does depend on your CPU and it does depend on your GPU, for sure. All right, Jerry said he's running the current Chrome browser on Windows 10 with Intel graphics. YouTube live feed is fuzzy. Jerry, you can, yeah, as Rich says, you can click the little gear and bump up the resolution. My guess is YouTube may be sensing your internet speed and trying to pick out the one that's best for you. Could be. I am just stoked that Panasonic has come out with the NDI camera. I just, and I can't, I bet Sony is not very far behind because they tend to be, big competitors. And I'm hoping that means that the PTC Optics guys are not far behind. And then I'm wondering about, all the other cameras. I mean, right now we're talking PTZ cams, but what about a regular broadcast camera, a studio cam, or a high-end video cam? Is Canon going to take their flagship cam and put NDI in that? Yeah, Rich says Panasonic, but $8,000. Yeah, but they're folks that will do that. They're folks that think that that they've got to have the best, and in an environment where the specifics of that camera in terms of its smooth panning ability, its the noise ratio, all those kinds of things probably come into play. I won't be spending $8,000 for one, but that's okay. And Michael says that the NDI cams are going to be real game changers. I agree. And it's not just going to be in the camera world. It's going to be in the capture card world too. Gavin has a good point that live stream quality is variable even on a super fast connection. And that's probably true. For example, this shot right here is mostly static. The pixels are not changing. The only thing that's changing is my lips and occasionally my hands and maybe my head moves. So this is probably not a very challenging video. But if this were a soccer match or a basketball game, we would see probably a bigger, more data because there would be more pixels changing. That's just my 2 cents worth on that one. All right, John says, is there a tutorial on using a web browser as an input in vMix 17? I've tried several times so far and can't get it to work. John, that's a really good question, because I've had mixed results on that too. And what I realized was, and I don't know whether it had to do with the vMix 17 version that I was running at the moment, or whether it was something going on in my PC. You want to make sure you've got the latest vMix 17, which is 0.85. But sometimes, well, last week and the week before, when I added a web browser input in vMix, it took a little while to populate. Maybe, in one case, a minute. Today, they populated immediately. And I don't remember whether 8.5 was out last week or not. But that would be the difference that I would think. It could be an update in vMix, and it also could be just based on your internet traffic. But give that a try and report back and see if that makes a difference. Giles says the future is bright with NDI. It'll probably result in wider adoption of the 10 gig Ethernet. Yep. Which will hopefully bring down the price. Yeah. Yep. Well, you figure, yeah, if you've got a gig service and a 720p camera takes up 25 megs, and you want 10 cameras, well, that's 250 out of your 1,000, plus all the other traffic. I mean, today, what's my traffic doing? I've got an IP cam running. I've got the SDI, the NDI going out to the laptop from this PC. And we're right at 37%, with occasional blips up to 75%. And that's of 100 megs. Don't know what the blips represent. Would love to be able to break that up, but don't have a way to do that at this point. Rich, still waiting for the SDI HDMI to NDI converters. I think that's going to be a real market. Edward says Bird Dog TV, and it's actually Bird Dog TV. Yeah, there you go. Michael's got it. It's going. I mean, they're the first ones to the. they're the first ones to the ice cream truck, and they kind of are going to set where the bar is in terms of pricing. And I think the bar is a little high, but they've also obviously got a lot of R&D, and for somebody that's got a super high-end camera and wants to make it NDI, what's throwing $700 at it, huh? But I think sooner or later we're going to see a sub $250 converter card or box or dongle or whatever we're going to call it. That's going to simply plug in HDMI on one end and RJ45 on the other end. Jerry says he's getting a better show. That's good. John says, I have 0.85 and didn't wait but 30 seconds or so at the most. Yeah. I'd say set it, see what it'll do, come back 5 minutes later, and I don't know why it's glitchy. Jerry said, thanks, Tom, you nailed it. The laptop auto set to 140p. There you go. It thought you had really good eyesight. Or maybe it thought you had crappy eyesight and you never know the difference. At our age, yes. Rich says the blips on the network performance means upload and download speed utilization. Okay. Now you got to tell me what upload and download speed utilization is. That's good. Henri says cheaper Panasonics are under $3,000. I think those panties are just old models with NDA firmware upgrade. I bet you're right. I bet it's the same specs as before with just an NDI upgrade. And, you know, won't that be great for the camera manufacturers if it means they don't have to add new hardware to the cams, that it can be some sort of firmware. But my guess is, it probably means more than just a firmware upgrade. That they have to put a chip in, or they have to put a small card in, or something like that to do the NDI stuff, the processing on that end. I don't know, Martin K., what do you think? That's who I would pitch it to. Rich says if you have 100 MB NIC, that means you have a max of 50 up or 50 down. Yes. Well, let me capture that so everybody can see. In pre-show we had a little. We went off the track just a little bit, and this is what we're talking about. This is my task manager, and you see down that there are two graphs. The top graph is local area connection number 2, which is not currently connected. The bottom graph, local area connection number 1, you can see upload and download speed. I think that's the red and the green. And you can see the little peak where it went above 50%, then it was pretty steady, then it peaked, and then it dropped way down. And I haven't changed anything. Well, I take that back. I am showing you a picture of this. So let's go back to my regular shot and see if it changes, and then I'll change back to this one. And there's a big jump as I go back to this one. And then it looks like we are at about the same level that we were at before, and I'm going to go back to it and you can watch it drop. And so you can see the big peak, and then it came in, then you see a little peak as I switched back, and now we're back down because there's that much less data being sent with this shot. Just for funds, I'm going to put in a black screen, and I'll watch and see how much data it says is being sent with a black screen. I mean, at this point, it's probably just it's just audio. But it doesn't look like it made that much difference. Let's go back here. You can see, yeah, there's not much difference there. All right. Rich says, play a quick video. Well, let's see. I think there's a hockey sequence here that somebody sent me. Oh, no, that's not it. We'll try to find something else. Yeah, here we go. So we'll go into the tracking camera. This is the perfect track from PTZ Optics. This young man right here is the developer of it. And we'll switch back. We're going to let it kind of level out for just a second. And you can see the video moving, so it's not all static. And that's the end of the video, so we'll go back to the task manager bar, and you can see that the series of ups and downs was the video. Probably that big valley was probably where it for the most part, showed a static image. Red/green is up/down. Yeah, I don't know which is which. I don't know why the up. I mean, I would think it would be all uplink. I'm not downloading the same thing unless it's somehow, well, maybe it's video and audio. No, that couldn't be it. Somewhere is a legend to tell us, but it's not here. Interesting, to be sure. You see, we're still hovering in the 30s. Okay, for those of you that are not fascinated with graphs, but would like to see me instead. Oh my goodness. NDI. NDI. The proverbial game changer. The effects of NDI are going to be now like ripples going throughout the industry with cameras and with this NDI cloud transport all over the states. It's going to be really interesting to see where the next ripple comes from. Jan says, doesn't make much sense that up should only be as much as down, as the fact that you only receive NDI content, or is your NDI output also enabled? On this PC, this production PC, I am outputting, let's just double check. I am outputting on the NDI, this would be the NDI external output / NDI in settings. And there are 4 different options. One of them is recording, and I can't capture this window because in order to capture it, it has to be there when you capture it, and it just pops up temporarily. If I were to swing this window into something else, does it? No, it doesn't capture it. Okay, so the NDI outputs, you've got 4 choices. Choice number 1 is recording / external / output. Choice number 2 is cameras / audio inputs. Choice number 3, in my case, since I've got the 4K version, is external 2, and the 4th choice is audio outputs. And I've got the recording external output checked and the camera's audio outputs checked. And I don't need the camera's audio output checked for what I'm doing now, so I may be using a little bit more CPU by having that option checked. The external output, which is the output window, when I send that out, that carries audio and video, so I don't have to send out a separate audio output in that sense. Yeah, thank you, Martin, for chiming in on NDI to existing cameras. Yeah, it depends on what's there. Yep. And Rich says bytes sent is red, bytes received is yellow, total bytes is green. Okay, there you go. So the red and the green essentially are telling you the same thing. Got it. Martin says, try your title sequence. There's more movement in the middle part of that. Okay, that's a good idea. Let's try that. Interesting what I'm seeing. And let me bring it up so you can see it too. But you can see that it really maxed out there. The question for me is, you know, this graph is based on 100% of 100 megs, 100 megabits, when really the amount of data being sent is not being sent over the 100 megabit connection. It's being sent over the gigabit portion of the connection. So it'll be interesting to maybe separate out those and disconnect from the internet at some point and see if I can't get the gigabit connection and do that. I mean, obviously I don't want to disconnect you guys. So that's what the title sequence was, that big large hump there. The music always makes me smile. Makes me smile too. It was fun to look for it and find it. Okay. So we got that. NDI. Cool stuff. Cool stuff. I mean, what else is NDI going to be able to do? I guess, you know, if I had my wish list in terms of things that could become NDI compatible, I want Skype to be NDI compatible. I want to be able to send the audio and video of this show to Skype as, and on the Skype side, it would see the output from vMix as video, which it already does, and it would see the output from vMix as audio, which it doesn't. You have to send it through something else in order to get it there, because Skype is looking for a microphone, and the output of audio from vMix is a speaker. In fact, I just put up a feature request in the New Tech, in the vMix forum recently on that. So I'd like Skype to be NDI compatible, and then, you know, with that would be GoToMeeting and Zoom and all those other softwares that are kind of using that are using your default Windows devices as, that's it. I want NDI to be recognized by Windows as a default device. I mean, as a legitimate audio and video device. That's what I want. There we go. NDI to be a Windows audio and or video device. Is that too much to ask? Is that happening somewhere and I just don't know about it? We'll see. Giganet. Trademark that, Tom. Somebody probably already has, but it's a good idea, Gavin. All right, Giles says, that explains a lot. I get dropped frames with 1080p 25 over NDI on 100 megabit. I'll have to use Gig E. Yep. Yeah, I think you need to. Because there are other things going on, and 1080p 25 might be, I don't know, might be 75, 80. I mean, you can sure check your network when you do that. Gavin says, for events, you just need to get that camera feeds to a switch and then sit in a remote location to mix stream. Exactly. Yeah. Rafael wants an easy talkback solution to be NDI compatible. Ah, interesting. Martinez has a Canon XF205, which you can connect directly to the internet. Would be great if a firmware update would work. Sorry, for NDI. What is a Canon XF205? It is a US $3,000 Canon. 3 megapixels. $1080p. On Canon's website, it says supports IP streaming with free firmware update. Interesting. IP streaming. Well, if that's the case, if it'll support IP streaming, I'm betting that it would have the necessary guts that it might take an NDI firmware update. Michael says an NDI monitor for iOS or Android would be neat. You could then send the commentator audio over NDI to a phone, and the cameraman could listen to the commentators and get the notification tally over the vMix web interface. Interesting. Interesting. Dave says online gamers might like NDI. Oh, yeah. Giles says, I think the big problem with Skype, there's more than one big problem with Skype. The big problem with Skype is that it doesn't have any option for sending its output, which you normally see here on the local screen, to an alternative device. True, but that hasn't been an issue for me because the vMix desktop capture will capture the Skype window, audio and video, and send that via NDI from, I mean, I'm assuming you're talking about two different PCs. You send the Skype from PC number 2 to PC number 1 via NDI. And if you're doing it locally on the same PC, then you don't have an issue either. It's getting it back into Skype to send back to your caller. All right, Rich, back to your spreadsheets. Great to have you here. Thank you. Let's see, anybody else slipped in while we were just chatting? Nope. Okay, good. What else could NDI do for us? You know what would be cool, and this is probably this NDI cloud thing, but if you guys watching could, let's say you had a camera hooked up that was showing you, maybe it's a laptop cam or a webcam or whatever else, you could make that camera available as an NDI source on this NDI cloud thingy, and then I could bring all your cameras into this show without having to go through anything else like Google Hangouts or Skype or Zoom or WebEx or whatever. That would be pretty cool. All right, Giles says true, but if you are doing one PC, capturing the received Skype audio is tricky unless you use virtual cable or whatever. I don't have any problem with sending audio video from vMix, again, using local loopback. Okay. Last time I did Skype on the same PC, and I did a capture of the Skype window, the audio came with it. It was a non-issue for me. Now, if the audio didn't come with it, and I had to capture it somehow, you know, vMix is looking for a microphone, Skype is providing a speaker, and yeah, you're going to have something to bridge the gap like a virtual audio cable. Yeah. And that's what I've used in a remote PC to get the audio back into Skype to send back to my caller. Because, again, Skype's looking for a microphone. vMix is providing a speaker and there has to be a cable, a cable that thinks it can connect the two. Giles says you just nailed it. Everything needs to be NDI in-out capable. Yep. Yep. I mean, NDI needs to be like virtual audio cable. Whereas, you know, I don't know. Maybe I don't know what I'm talking about. I definitely don't know what I'm talking about. Michael says, true there, Tom. Over the NDI cloud, you could also use a smartphone camera. Oh, absolutely. Oh, yeah. That would be the bomb. Giles, if you do local Skype capture, I get a problem with capturing the audio because it interferes with vMix. I need Voice Meter Banana to do two-way Skype mix. I see what you're saying. Yeah, yeah. Yep. And that's where, yeah. Gavin says, excuse my ignorance. Well, you're in the right place. But what is the cost of implementing NDI? NewTek seems to have free paid options. Say one computer with a camera hooked up elsewhere in a building sending to vMix or OBS Wirecast in due course. With vMix, NDI is built in. So let's just talk about the scenario I've got here in the studio. Is I've got vMix on the production PC. I've got a laptop right back here that is hooked up to the network, and it's also running vMix. And so vMix from the production PC is able to send audio and video to the laptop, and the laptop's able to rebroadcast that. Here on my desktop, my production PC, I've got the vMix 4K version, which is the $700 version. But on the laptop, the vMix Basic HD version will suffice, because as you saw a little while ago, I'm only using one input. And so I'm not trying to control a PTZ camera or do instant replay or anything that I would need a higher level of vMix for than just the basic SD. So for, you know, $60, the cost of the basic SD, for $60, I've got a streaming box, an encoding and streaming and recording box. If I were doing let's say I was doing a remote camera in another part of the building attached to the laptop that was attached to the internet, again, the laptop, it just needs the one input, which would be the camera, and let's say the camera's got audio with it. Well, that's still one input, and it's making that input available onto the network via NDI, which comes into my production PC as a NDI source through vMix. Now, how Wirecast or OBS would handle that, I don't know. I mean, as of today, to my understanding is that Wirecast doesn't have NDI working as of today. I understand that VidBlaster does, but I haven't seen it, so I don't know how far it's implemented and really what that means. And OBS I don't know anything about, so I can't help you at all there. Now, there are some free utilities, Gavin, that NewTek makes available that you can put on this remote PC to recognize a camera or an audio source and make that source available through NDI to the other PCs. But at some point, you've got to have something like a vMix that can recognize NDI, or else you can't use NDI. Martin says, Tom, work your magic on Canon, please. I'd like to have NDI on my XF205. Well, you probably won't. What Canon would do, if I were Canon, what I would do is I would say, Martin, you're SOL, buddy. You're going to have to sell that camera, but I've got an XF205 NDI that I can sell you for only $500 more that will do NDI. And all I'm doing, if I'm Canon, is I'm doing a little firmware update, or maybe, as Martin says, I have to add a little bit of extra hardware inside the camera to make it do NDI, but I'm not going to be able to, I'm not going to take away my own revenue by easily updating your camera. I want to create more market. I don't want to go in and fix the market that I've already have. Yeah, that's what Rafael says. Giles says vMix is fantastic for doing some of these NDI things. Oh yeah, yeah. vMix is it's a Swiss Army knife in that sense. Michael says smartphones should be no problem. Sienna already has an iOS app to send the SmartFam camera via NDI. Indeed. So I guess that's just the next step to implement it into the NDI cloud. Absolutely. And I think the cloud is I think there's a thing in the cloud, whether it's a server farm or whatever it is, this relay system, that it's, maybe it's trying to plot out the quickest path between 2 points, or constantly be checking the quickest path between 2 points so that you don't end up with an internet connection that's not as fast as it could be because you're going through one node that already has a lot of high traffic. So I think the NDI cloud is going to have a cost to it at some point, probably a subscription cost. We'll see. Rafael, have faith in the mighty Tom. Yeah, I wouldn't count on it, Martin. Yeah, I can have faith in me for a lot of stuff, but it won't be that. Martin says he's tested NDI under VidBlaster X5 and the inputs work, but as is yet, there's no output module. Okay, that's good to know. And and that's part of the fine print that we're going to have to be careful of ourselves in the future. Is just because somebody said something is NDI compatible, well, what in the world does that mean? Madgewell came out and said they were NDI compatible. Well, they're NDI compatible because NewTek provides the NewTek, the NDI Connect application that will allow things like Madgewell's capture cards to be compatible. But other than the NewTek Connect, the Madgewell cards are not compatible at all. Kent says, Tom, would there be a good time for you to look over my workflow? I'm trying to get more simple, and like you said the other week, I shouldn't have to think about anything or fix anything when I'm ready to do a show. Well, there's shoulds, yeah. I generally have to fix something and think about a lot of things before I do a show, but that's me. Ken, I would love to. I am socked in for the rest of this week until probably next Thursday. But maybe we could do something one night later next week or even over the weekend. Not this coming weekend, but the weekend after that. Rafael says, I don't have faith in Canon. I have faith in Canon to look after Canon. That's what I expect. They're a company. They don't they're in the business to sell cameras and make money. And they are not a charity organization. Henri says, I hope JVC adds NDI2. It was nice to have the streaming firmware as a firmware update. Oh, how much did they charge you for that update? Was that a free update? Yeah, Kent, just shoot me an email, and we'll get a time together. All right, Martin says, scroll down to the bottom of his page at zenvideo.co.uk/ndi.htm, and you'll see a Magewell-specific quad NDI capture utility that Martin has written, no doubt. Awesome. Awesome. I love it. Let's go there. Oops, that's not it. Let's go there like this. Okay. John Kraft, if you are still here, I just added, let's see if John's still on the list. I don't see him on my list, but I just added a web browser of Martin's page, and there it is. And let's see if we can find. Oops, I went past it. Right there. An NDI receiver transmitter. That's cool. And then, down at the bottom of the page, and you guys will have to find this on your own, but the quad NDI import source from Magewell Pro Capture cards. Wow. An alternative to NewTek's NDI Connect Pro, this is explicitly designed to expose the hardware video processing features of Magewell's Pro Capture family of PCIe cards. Use a Pro Capture quad card to create 4 NDI sources, for example. I think currently you can only create 2 NDI sources with the NDI Connect, the free version from NewTek. So what Martin has done is he's doubled the amount. That's impressive. That is impressive. So we'll have to keep an eye on Martin for that one. Yes, indeedy. Need to keep an eye on Martin anyway. Henri says the JVC firmware updates were free. Oh, I don't think any company will charge for firmware. Well, that's a good point. They may or may not, but I don't think if they can get a huge feature like NDI into a camera that they're going to give that away for free. Somebody might be able to hack it in, but giving it away for free, I mean, why would you give away something huge like that for free? I'd bring out a whole new camera line, for sure. Gavin says that Canon and Sony are known to charge for firmware. There you go. I mean, it has a cost to them. Somebody had to sit down and figure out what it was, and they need to recoup that cost. I mean, I'm thinking about it from a company standpoint. From a user standpoint, sure, I want everything free, but if I get everything free, then the company goes out of business. Martin says it's Pro Capture specific, using their SDK to directly access the Pro Capture cards. Aha. That's interesting. So it's not going to be compatible with the Gen 1 Magewell cards. It's just the Gen 2, the Pro Capture series. That's good to know. But that makes sense because that's where the market is today. Martin, are you going to bring this to market? I mean, is this more than just an intellectual exercise? Or is Magewell going to buy it from you, or are you going to resell it? I mean, or sell it? Are you going to resell it? I'm beginning to perk up a little bit here. I keep seeing that tree back there, and I keep thinking that I need to comb my hair. That's where those pictures can reach out and bite you. Welcome to Guest 180. Sorry I didn't see you pop in. Glad to have you here. Glad to have you here. All right, I'm going to watch my Windows Task Manager Network tab and see if I put a lot of motion in the frame. Does my usage go up of the network? And it goes up a little bit. How about that? Now, if I'm real still, will it stop? And I'll just barely move my lips at all. So the pixels aren't changing very much. And yeah, it goes as still as it can be. I'll show it to you in just a second here. I'm actually still here. You can watch my lips move just a little bit. Okay, enough of that. So that's what we see. You see all the arm motion there, and then you see when I was dead still at the tail end of the graph. And then you can see a little jump when I switched over to this one where it had to replace all the pixels, and now of course it's a very almost static image that doesn't change much. Michael wants to know, should we wave back to see if the download goes up? I love that sense of humor. That's great. All right, Martin says, oh, there's a deal going here. Martin says, we're still working on that aspect of it, but the aim was to have it bundled with Madgwell cards to help promote them over other brands as being more fully NDI compatible. There you go. Good deal. Good deal. That's if that comes with the card, it's worth paying for. That's cool. Oh, I can tell by the graph that some of you are waving, because the download portion of the, where is it? Right here. Yeah, the download portion. See how jiggly it was? Some of you were waving, I could tell. Oh, that's too funny. That's too funny. All right, folks. Well, I have got an appointment that I need to get ready for. So I need to break off. Y'all are welcome to stay and chat. And I will see you guys back here next week, I hope. If I can help you in any way, you know how to reach me. Can't, send me an email. And Jens says the future will bring us awesome NDI devices. That's right. Yeah, what I want for Christmas. Indeed. Indeed. All right, folks. Well, let's see if I can I turn this off from my phone? I think I can. Yep. Here we are. Oh, let's see. We've got about a 10-second delay. So I'm going to wait 20 seconds and then I'm going to kill the stream. But great having you guys here. Thank you so much. And I will see you, and we'll put this little guy up there. And I'll see you next week.